Hello, everyone, and welcome to Never a Foul, a show for you. This is the debate time. It is the Saturday review. Thanks for everybody that is here with me. We are here with a great panel in the background to talk FA Cup, Carabao Cup, transfer news, Man City v Arsenal, of course. The World War III has started, and the first game was yesterday, and Man City won the first round. Can they keep it up? Can the momentum take them somewhere close to Arsenal, who are flying in the Premier League right now? But first of all, you know what it is. You know, when you step on the stream, first thing first, you gotta hit that like button for me, please. If you just joined, we're already here with 50 people just like this, of course. Man United just won 3-1. The big teams, all of them won. Spurs 3-0 away at Preston, and Newcastle, Manchester United showdown at Wembley, Carabao Cup. We'll talk about that as well because we have Kindle in the background. Maybe it's their first trophy. However, can they beat Man United? Both teams look like with a foot in the final, honestly, to be honest. But hear me out. I'm going to bring them right away here for you. The results are in front of you on the screen. Of course, it's Man City, Arsenal. Of course, tomorrow it's Liverpool against Brighton. It's an afternoon kickoff, and they play Brighton, who just slapped them about like 2 weeks ago. And we'll talk about that as well. So, without further ado, here we go. Of course, I'm going to bring them in. And you see me on the top right corner, and you will see all of them. These beautiful people are here with me. Beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us here. Kendall, welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you as always for having me, as usual. My team are not in the FA Cup this weekend, so I'm kind of just chilling, but we've got a big game coming up on Tuesday, so just waiting for that now.
Oh yes, of course. Nobins, first time we meet, my friend, Man City fans. Nobins, how are you feeling? Are you feeling the momentum though from yesterday?
I'm feeling great. Thank you for having me on. I'm sure we'll get into it. I'm not really sure how much we learnt from City's defeat, City's victory against Arsenal, but obviously really happy to win it. And yeah, hopefully putting Arsenal in their place.
Hey, Sols, my friend, my brother. Always great to chat with you. I see you in the chat behind the scenes, and I see you not so worried about this defeat, to be honest. You're not worried.
No, man. The best thing about that game yesterday was the view I had. Unfortunately, I was sat around some City fans that got really pissed off, so I was like, yeah, I kind of have to hold this in. They really wanted to like go and beat up Arsenal fans. So I was like, okay, hide my phone, hide anything remotely to do with me being an Arsenal fan. And yeah, when they scored, it was a bit weird. It was weird because I kind of just wanted to stay sitting down. But I was like, yeah, they're going to beat me up otherwise. So, I just stood up.
But people, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, hit that like button. We'll go through some comments before we start the show. Of course, hit that like button as you see on the screen. Before we go into the show and before we start talking about the games and stuff, Arsenal fans, hold the loss. The champions beat you. Don't come with these excuses. We didn't hear our strongest team. We didn't have our strongest team either. Seriously, it is crazy. They act like they played with 11 kids. That's Daniel saying. Big up Daniel. Sid is here with us. Thank you, Sid. What are you saying, my friend? Daniel, who you talking to? They're talking to each other. The Arsenal Solo MCFC, thank you so much for joining. And Travelli is here as well with us. Nam is here. He's saying we're late. We just waited for the Man United game to finish. Credit to Arsenal. Himira is saying, Stu 6 is saying Arsenal dreamers. We'll talk about this as well. Lots of comments. Pablo, of course, with us. But I'm gonna start right away with the Man City Arsenal game. To be honest, guys, I'm gonna start with Gunnar Solskjaer. Listen, my friend, I watched your game yesterday. You were in control the first half, as much as you were in control against Man United. but you did not take your chances. And you said you're not worried. Are you a little bit worried against big teams now when you don't take your chance? Yes, you won against Man United, but in the final minute, while you control the whole game.
Not really. I mean, the game kind of doesn't show us enough because we didn't. I mean, I'm not using it as an excuse, but we did rotate our 11, and that's not the 11 we would normally play coming into a big game in the league. And, Zinchenko would be playing, who we know is vital in terms of how we control that midfield. The way he inverts isn't the same thing that Taney offers us. We know Taney going forward is probably largely a threat in terms of trying to get a goal in. But when you look at the overall play, Zinchenko offers us way more in this system to what, a Taney would offer. But we also got to understand Rob Holding did keep in control Haaland. Like, we've got to understand that Rob Holding ain't a good defender. He's average at best. And Haaland was frustrated and wasn't getting the ball. Haaland kept him, tight. They kept tight to each other, didn't give him the spaces he needed. So I'm not worried because when we look at first 11 to first 11, I back us beating them. And to be honest with you, I think the only thing that this game confirmed to me is there's a really easy way of stopping Haaland. Like, really easy. He's not the threat to me. The only way I see City beating us on February the 15th is if Alvarez plays, and that's my honest opinion. Now, people can debate this, but there's now 4 teams who have shown in the same manner on how you can stop the supply to Haaland and nullify his threat. And when we look at it, they played Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, and Gundogan, and in the first half we looked better. With a player with Fabio Vieira, Odegaard wasn't even in this game, until the second half. So I'm positive. I'm disappointed, not like these weird Arsenal fans who are celebrating getting out of a cup. I don't understand this mentality. You may as well be Spurs fans, because how can you be so happy that we got knocked out? Now, I'm proud of their performance, and I'm happy that, we went toe-to-toe with City and we played our way. We didn't cower away and, park the bus or play a different system or try a different way of playing. But I'm very disappointed that we didn't take our chances. We didn't take it to them, and we didn't at least get to a replay, if anything. So that's just how I feel right now.
Before I go to Nobins, because I need his response about the Haaland thing, someone who scored already 31 goals and 25 goals. Ebby here with the super chat. Thank you so much for that super chat. I said, all due respect, City home fans are so bad, in my opinion. Listen, I went to the Etihad. It's one of some stadiums I went to in England, and the fans were they were lively, to be honest. It was full. It is hard to find tickets. I tried to get tickets when I was in England a couple of months ago, and I couldn't. So I'm not sure why people keep saying that. But Nobins, thank you so much, Abby, for the super chat. Nobins, Haaland, though, yesterday caused a little bit of chaos, but his touch was not the best. What are you telling Arsenal fans about Haaland? It's like, because I'm seeing Gunnar Solskjaer's voice in a lot of places that they're not scared anymore.
Yeah, I think the first thing I'll do is disagree with the idea that Holding shut down Haaland. I'm not sure where that's come from. There was a moment where Holding dragged Haaland to the ground. He had hold of his shirt. That probably should have been a yellow card. There was a moment where Holding sort of half elbow/forearmed Haaland in the head, and Holding did actually get a yellow card in the game as well. I believe that Holding went off at half time because he was so clearly out of his depth, and Saliba came on, and you could see the big difference in quality between Saliba and Holding. So first thing there. Secondly, in terms of the whole, there's been this weird thing going around. Well, I think it's weird that, Haaland's made City worse, and City are too predictable with Haaland in the team. Ain't no one saying this at the start of the season when City were blowing teams away. It just so happens that a lot of players at City are having a poor run of form at the moment. And so now the narrative at the start of the season was, Haaland's a robot and he's going to break the Premier League and City are going to win the title by like 1 million points. And now the narrative has totally shifted to, it makes them too predictable. And for me, that's just a really lazy narrative. I do agree with Souls in that I like the idea of Alvarez starting for City, but you can play both Alvarez and Haaland in the same team. I think we saw the best of that in the Chelsea game, where Haaland had Alvarez as a runner to bounce off. So I agree that Alvarez is a big threat, and I probably would like to see him start against Arsenal, but for me, it's not a case of one or the other. You can quite easily have both of them in the same team. As I say, with Alvarez as almost like a second striker to Haaland as a runner.
Do you know what it is, though? I've never disputed Haaland breaking the record. I've actually said it from the beginning of the season. He will go on to win the record. That's not my dispute. My point is, yes, he's going to score goals, and he's that Ronaldo CR7 effect where he's going to get loads and loads and loads of goals. But the way to stop that isn't that difficult. That's what's been confirmed. I'm not saying, in a sense of he doesn't have ability or quality. I'm just saying to stop that from happening isn't that difficult. We've seen it throughout the season, and all four teams have shown it in the same manner. That's all I'm saying.
If it was easy to stop Haaland, then he wouldn't have scored 25 Premier League goals.
Teams don't have the quality, though.
So it's therefore not easy to stop him, is it?
It is.
Why has he scored 25 Premier League goals then?
Because what I've said is, look, the way to stop him, four teams have shown. I mean, play him. I want you to play him. So the narrative for me is going to switch. I want him to play against us because I don't fear a Haaland City. I fear a Alvarez City. And that's what my beginning has been. Now, what you said, play them together. Yeah, that's fine. And as long as Alvarez is playing, I've always said I fear City as long as he plays. If Haaland plays with the likes of Mahrez and Grealish, I'm fine, play him. I'm taking you guys to the Emirates and we're going to clean you.
Why Sol's acting like Haaland's any old Shadams or something?
No, it's not that. What? The thing is, no. The thing is, he's not hard to stop. No. You cut the supply. What else does he have to offer? Nothing. Zilch. He's got nothing more to his game. So the reality is you stop the supply to him, which we're good enough to do. The likes of, even Brentford have shown that. So as long as you have a solid midfield who's doing their job, I'm not like maybe the word easy is probably being blown out of proportion, but it's not as hard as the teams are made it out to being. When it comes to one-dimensional, I do think that's the case because they're not used to having a striker. You've got to think City have been playing with a false nine-ish type player for about 3 to 4 seasons. Correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously when you then have a pivot, like a pointer, like focal point to play towards, it is going to change the game. And I don't think they're used to having a Haaland there, someone who's going to be in the box. But for me, I still say, yes, in a season or two, yes, it'll become a lot harder to stop a Haaland. But in the immediate future, I don't think it's that difficult.
In my opinion, the thing about it, and I'm talking numbers, and I'm responding to Nobins here, and I heard this, it's not just me, and I said that I was talking to Daps yesterday when we did the watch along, and it's as simple as that. Last season, City scored 99 goals in 38 games, and they conceded 24 goals. At this moment, City scored 53 goals in 20 games and conceded 20 goals. So Haaland scoring 25 goals, yes, he's adding the goals, but did he take away from the other players? Is he making the team worse? You conceded way more. You are on course to concede 40 goals this season, which is, I think, the highest since Pep Guardiola took over the team. But you are on course to score the same amount of goals. How do you respond to that?
We've actually scored more goals at this stage of the season compared to last season. The issue is a defensive one, and Haaland has nothing to do with City's defensive issues this season. The main issue is that City keep giving the ball away in midfield for no reason. It's a catalogue of unforced errors. Kevin De Bruyne, for example, has had a very odd season where he's been either world class or rubbish. For example, against Leeds, genuinely amazing performance, brilliant. And then the next game against Everton, he just can't make a simple 5-yard pass, and that's nothing to do with, Haaland's not dropping deep enough, or Haaland is too predictable to mark or whatever. It's just because De Bruyne. I'm singling out De Bruyne here just because it's indicative of the issues. It's just because De Bruyne can't make a basic pass, and it's got nothing to do with a system change. It's got nothing to do with Haaland being up front and being easy to mark or whatever. It's just because too many players at City are making uncharacteristic errors. So I've got to strongly disagree that City are worse because of Haaland. City are worse this season. And also, a lot of this is being blown out of proportion. City, as I say, City have scored more compared to last season at this stage of the season. They're only 2 points worse off compared to this stage of the season. The main reason why people are talking about this, I think, is because Arsenal have been genuinely amazing and excellent this season. These guys are on centurion pace. If their second half of the season is as good as their first half, they will hit 100 points. And that's why I think people are focusing more on City being bad, when I think actually they haven't been bad. They've been slightly worse than last season, but that's down to a few individuals not performing at the level you'd expect. Cancelo, for example, prime example, arguably the best fullback in the world last couple of seasons. He can't get into the team now. Ake, who's a centre-half, is Pep's preferred player
Yeah.
in that position, as an example.
Ebby with another super chat. He's directing that to Souls, to be honest. Arsenal fan here, but disagree with Souls about Haaland. 25 Premier League goals, 25. Come on, it is difficult to stop him. Only a few teams have stopped him. I don't know, like, you look so confident about the stopping Haaland thing, and it just, I don't know, like, to be honest, I'm watching the guy, and he needs just 2-3 chances and he will score. Yesterday he didn't get a lot of chance. He got one chance where Turner came and cleared early off his line, which he was absolutely phenomenal, Turner, yesterday. But listen, you're so confident, and you got 50 points. You have all the right to be confident the way you play.
Forget that. I said this at the beginning of the season as well. It's not even about us getting 50 points, because for me, what I do is I like to watch patterns in football. I don't necessarily look at the results. Yes, he can score against teams, but I'm looking at what are teams doing to nullify threats. A simple example of this is when Brazil and Spain played in that sort of nations thingy that they always play in. When did tiki-taka break down? Is when Brazil exposed it. You press on the midfield, you make it hard for them, and you work hard in the midfield. And that's how you break down tiki-taka in a sense, right? And when teams started doing it, once like the 5th or 6th team started doing it, you're like, okay, this is how you got to do it. And that's when, the likes of Pep had to rejig their systems to make that threat become more apparent. Now, what I'm saying is this. I've seen 4 teams do it, and they've all done it in the similar to same manner. Now, it doesn't mean, I understand people are going to go, yeah, but he scored 31 in 26 or whatever it is. That doesn't disprove the point. It just means that teams haven't set up in the way that they should have to stop Haaland. Now, of course, in those other games, other people are going to step up, similar to what Arsenal have had. When you stop, let's say, Gabriel Jesus before his injury, there's going to be someone like a Saka stepping up, Martinelli may step up. That's the hard part, with the Man City right now. I'm not saying you can't stop Man City. I'm just saying you can stop Haaland from being as effective as he has been so far this season.
Yeah, Kendall, where are you in this conversation in terms of like you're third on the table right now? And you are chasing City, obviously. Very obvious that you are chasing City for a second. You are going into signing and stuff like this. But how do you see this conversation about stopping Haaland, the tiki-taka, Arsenal? In the conversation, Newcastle are coming into the conversation now. Where do you see this fight going? Do you see it going to the wire, or you think your team will catch up to City and City will be dragged into a top 4 fight with United and Newcastle?
Nah, I don't think it'll be a fight for top 4. I know obviously City maybe aren't the same City that we've been seeing for the last 3-4 years because they've just been so good, but I don't think it'll go that far. I think it'll still be, despite the fact Arsenal are on such a good run, and I do personally, despite the fact we're only halfway through the season now, I do still think Arsenal probably win the league. But I think it'll be between them two. City are just so good and so experienced. Regardless, they're still the best team in the league. Obviously, on form, Arsenal play the best in the league at the moment. That's just obvious facts. And look at the top of the table, but still with the setup and with the manager and things like that. So yeah, I still think it'll be between them and Arsenal for the title. I don't think Man United are in it. I don't think we're in it. I think it's a 2-horse race at this point. I'm not expecting us to be in it at any stage anyway. To even consider that, to me, is like, I can't even. That's just like I can't even talk about that really. But in terms of Haaland, I just think everyone just kind of overcomplicates Haaland, in my opinion. Like, he is a striker. He is there to score goals. It is what City have missed in terms of a striker, an actual number 9 for a number of years. They've done without a number 9, perfectly fine, great. Creativity, goals has come from everywhere else, but they wanted a number 9. They got a number 9. He scores goals. He's effective. He's physical. He is an imposing character. He has smashed literally the goal scoring record, golden boot record from last season already. So I just think everyone overcomplicates Haaland a little bit and just enjoy him for what he is. He's probably not going to be here for a number of years. I think Nobbins, you can probably maybe disagree with me on that, but I think he's not going to be here for 6-7 years. I just can't see that. I think he's got the mentality in terms of a Cristiano Ronaldo mentality. Like, he wants to be the best everywhere. He doesn't just want to be the best. He doesn't just want to, Premier League legend, all right, whatever. Like, he wants to be Premier League legend, Serie A legend, La Liga legend. Like, he wants to do it everywhere. So yeah, I think we just need to enjoy him while we can. I wouldn't say anything negative about Haaland, to be fair. I just think he's a really, really good football player. Obviously there is a way to stop him. That's tactically what football's about. You have to figure out the thing to stop the other team winning. So yeah, I do get it, but I just don't think it's as easy as you probably think, hence why he hasn't been stopped that many times this season. So yeah, I think other than that, I think he's just great. And yeah, it'll just be a 2-horse race. I can't see it being, as I say, I can't see anyone else going in there at the moment.
Nobbins, do you see yourself getting dragged down, or you see you catching up after this win? That I was Man City fans on Twitter, everywhere, on Instagram, they are saying this is the start of business end of the season, which is your brilliant tat, and we have seen that 10 games, 12 games run. So where do you see this taking you up, or is just gonna be seeing out the season, still focus on the Champions League and the cup competition?
So I think I might be wrong here, but I think that when it was the 18-19 season and when it was between City and Liverpool, at this stage of the season, I believe that Liverpool were on 51 points and City were maybe around like 6 or 7 points behind them. It was something, I don't know the exact stats, I'm willing to be proven wrong there, but the basic premise being that City have been in a similar position where they have been able to overcome that very large gap at around the halfway stage of the season. Not saying that will happen, but there is past evidence for it. So there's so many points still to play for. There's no way that I don't think any City fan or member of staff or player is thinking, the title race is over. Because there's still 2 games against Arsenal to play in the Premier League. Now they could go, Arsenal could win both and that would kill it. But there is a reality in which City could theoretically win both of those games. And then that reduces the gap from 8 to 2. And then that's just one Arsenal draw and 1 City win away from leveling it out and it going down to goal difference. Another situation would be in the 11-12 season where with 6 games to go, City were 8 points behind Man United and they won the title. So it's definitely too early to write City off. I think, I don't know if it will happen. I think I'm more, if you had to push me for a percentage, I think I'm more 55% sure Arsenal will win now the title, just because I don't think there'll be, I think there will be a drop off relative to the first half of the season, but I don't think it will be a ridiculous drop off and they'll go away. Gary Neville predicted them to finish 3rd or something. I don't think that's going to happen. Yes, the City definitely not going to throw in the towel. It's a tough mountain to climb. It definitely can happen. I just wanted to touch on something that Kendall said, because I do agree with it. Kendall basically saying that for the past few seasons, we didn't have a striker. And what was everyone saying? Oh, City need to go and sign an out-and-out clinical number 9 striker so they can finish these chances. You're ex-GFC. You're not actually putting away your chances. So what does City do? They go and sign, objectively, the best goal scorer relative to his age profile. Haaland at 22 is outscoring everyone in modern football. He's outscoring Shearer, Messi, R9 Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, etc. And that's apparently still not good enough. So it's just a weird way of this is what you need. Okay, we get the thing. Nah, that's not quite good enough. So yeah, just wanted to touch on that as well.
Souls, why does everybody keep saying Arsenal are going to drop? I don't get it. Why is that happening?
It's all history based, isn't it? It's the pattern that we've shown in the past sort of 15 years, give or take. That we do tend to not be as good in periods of a season. We show patches of good form and then we can have patches of bad form and then go back to good form. But the one thing, that's probably their reason. But the thing is, this season, what annoys me is how many tests do we need to have? I don't understand this. It's you've got Spurs, that's a test. Oh, you've got United, that's a test. Oh, you've got this team, that's a test. Oh, City lost, so now you're going to lose. And it's what are we doing? Are we trying to win a PhD here? Or are we winning the league? Because it's a test after test after test after test. It's at some point you just got to sit there and go, do you know what? We're actually fucking good. do you know what? It's not about tests. It's not about when they're going to fall. You can't just admit that, you know what, they are just good. It's like Newcastle. Just admit it, they've fucking done well. Like, I'm not going to sit here and go, Newcastle next test is Brentford. If they don't beat Brentford, they failed the test. Like, no, they're just good. Like, you can't go in 19 games after 19 tests apparently now we've had, like, you know, every single week's another test. It's like, oh, we're playing 3 times a week. We still win in the league. So I don't know. I know it's the history of Arsenal, and I understand the recent history in Arsenal. Like top 4, we bottled that. We finished 8th. We finished 8th again. You know, finishing 5th under Emery, finishing 6th or something in Wenger's last season. You know, and coming out of that top 4, the trajectory has been on a down. But obviously, with the Arteta sort of era and like what we're now starting to build, we're starting to see that go up. But also, it's about what we did in this January transfer window. Now, we've bought in an attacker and we bought in a centre-back or a defender, should we say, in that can play a few positions. Now, the big question is whether we go and sort this midfield out, you know, just bring in a midfielder just to enforce what we've got. Now, whether we go get a Caicedo, whether we go get Zubimendi from Real Sociedad, you know, time will tell. Whether we even get a midfielder, period, is something which we'll see in the next coming days. So, yeah, I understand why they're saying it, because it's a history, but
you don't consider Man City a test. You don't consider that game yesterday a test.
Not yesterday, no, because it's an FA. No, I'm not disrespecting the FA Cup, but the mentalities will be different. Like, we've got to understand that I'm disappointed. You know, I'm a minority of Arsenal fans who's really disappointed of being out of the cup and being beaten. Like, I'm not going to sit here and go, I didn't care or whatever, City, you can have this one. No. But the whole narrative that was created around this game prior to the game happening from, I'd say City fans more so than anyone, is this psychological battle that, oh, you know, you're on this high form. If we beat you, it's going to mentally destroy you. And I go, but that's not been the case so far this season. You know, Nottingham Forest would knocked us out, bounce back, no problem at all. We still keep winning. You know, United beat us in the league, still kept winning. You know, it didn't stop our momentum. So I don't know why this would be. I understand why people think that, but I just think people need to. This is the reason we're going to win. In my opinion, we're going to go win the league is because the narrative around Arsenal has always been there's got to be a drop off. There has to be something that changes and we drop off and we just become a top 4 team. But the problem is that's where they're underestimating us. The same way that, you know, people will say I'm underestimating Haaland, which is a fair case to make. I think we're being underestimated as well, because you've got to understand Gabriel Jesus for a large part of the season hasn't even played yet. Like, Nketiah has been carrying us, you know, to continue this title race. And guess what? The point gap from when Jesus got injured to when Nketiah came in is still the same. So even when we're losing a key figure in our team, we're still doing it. Look, Partey was injured at the beginning of the season for about 2 or 3 games, and Lokonga came in. I don't rate him, but we still kept going. So I do think at some point this narrative has to change to try and stop us.
Yeah, listen, I hear you. You're absolutely reasonable in all the words you said and everything. I can't, like, me sitting here, I'm neutral in this thing. I go for the underdogs, and the underdogs were Arsenal in the beginning of the season. But I can't just sit here and ignore one number. It's 50 points in 19 games. This is just a sign of someone who's going to go win the Premier League. Who I want to know, I don't know the history though, but how many teams have reached 50 points midway through the season and went on not to win the Premier League? I don't know, and I doubt there is many.
We'd be the first.
Liverpool 18-19, I think.
18.
Wasn't that like if by the point of Christmas though, not the 50-point one?
I think that was after 19 games, I believe. I might be wrong, but I think they had 51 points after 19 games.
And they still went and lose to lose the league to you. That's the one
I think that's the only example, though. Yeah, it's obviously very rare for it to happen.
Yeah. It's just I'm not sure, but I think this is gonna be a big bottle jump. To be honest, it's gonna be a big failure for everybody at the club if you lose it from here. It's yours to leave. But people, it's 122 people here, and we're only on 70 likes. We need the likes to go up to 100. Please show us some respect. And I want to move on from the game, but the last thing I want to ask, Nubbins about this game is that did you see some of your players coming back? The Bernardo Silva coming back, playing well. Jack Grealish, who has been consistent, to be honest, for the last 2-3 games. Nathan Ake holding that left side. It's his now. Kyle Walker coming on and looking great on the pitch. Is that what you were expecting? Is that the bounce back that Guardiola asked for?
I think that we are seeing a better City side. Guardiola was very damning of his team after the Spurs game, and this has sort of been bubbling up for a number of games. I think it all came to a head at in the Southampton game in the League Cup quarter final, where it was probably the second worst City performance under Guardiola I've ever seen. The worst being like when we lost to Everton, I think 4-0 in Guardiola's first season. It was something ridiculous. It was a truly awful performance. Everyone had a terrible game in that game, and the players like voiced their concerns to each other at full time and they had their grievances. And then we saw it in the first half against Spurs. They capitulated and City came back, but Guardiola wasn't happy with that. He was like, I'm not going to let you off. I'm going to out you to let everyone watching. And I think that I'm reasonably happy with the reaction. Yeah. It's still not the same City that was at the start of the season, I think. But hopefully it's a good indication of what is to come in the season. You say yourself with the performances we had. I thought Laporte came on and was excellent. Ake's been one of our best defenders, and he's been playing out of position this season. Grealish had another good game. This idea that he's not having a good season is really weird and he's a flop. He's actually been one of our best outfield players this season if you actually watch City consistently. And Bernardo Silva, he's been one who's not been good recently, but I thought he played quite well against Arsenal. So hopefully it's a good indication of things to come, but it's still early days, as Pep said, and I agree with that as well.
Yeah, Kindle, I wanna move to Newcastle. Goals are drying out from you lately. Do you agree with that at all?
Say that again.
So, goals have been dried out from your team lately. You're winning the 1-0s, and like you're struggling to score goals. And even though Isaac is coming back, exactly, Isaac is coming back, but he's still yes, created that brilliant goal against Fulham, but it's not. Is it that drop? Is that the time for the drop, or?
I don't think it's time for the drop because we're still managing the draw. It's not making us lose games. It's just making us draw more than we probably like. So I don't think this time is necessarily going to make us drop out of anything. It's just, I don't know what's going on. Almiron's lost his form again as quickly as he found it. He's lost his form again. Obviously, Isak's just recently come back. I don't think he's playing enough for me. He needs to be starting games. Callum Wilson doesn't look the same. Hasn't looked the same since he's come back from the World Cup. I have absolutely no idea what is going on with him at all. He was ill over Christmas, and then has come back and just doesn't. He's not even like in a game as much as he would be. Obviously, we've played against both Man City and Arsenal. We played against both Man City and Arsenal this season, and he does affect games, and he does drop deep, and he does give defenders issues. But just against Arsenal, he was like a shadow. I don't even know what's going on with him, and that's not a one instance, that's a lot. So everyone's just kind of not off form, but just not performing at the level that we were before Christmas, and in the cup game against Leicester as well. So I'm not sure what's happening. Obviously, we've had an addition to the squad today that I kind of don't want to speak about because it's not the addition that I specifically wanted, and I still don't, but I will back him as long as he's in the black and white shirt. I'll back Anthony Gordon, and I trust Eddie Howe, and I trust Dan Ashworth, and hope that he offers just something fresher than what we have at the moment, because we really, really need that. But I'm just surprised at the minute, like, that we haven't added a little bit more this window, just even a loan or something. I know it's not over yet, but I just thought we would add a little bit more because our depth is very bad. As I said earlier in the show, we're not in the FA Cup anymore. When we played against Sheffield Wednesday, we had our second team out and we were awful. Very, very bad. So that, to me, shows that we really, really need some improvement somewhere along the way, some depth, quality and depth as well. We can't just add anyone to the squad in the way that we are at the moment. So, yeah, but I think we're fine. We're fine for now. Just want to get this semi-final out of the way on Tuesday because I have not seen us in a final. I was alive in the last final that we were there, but I was 3, so I don't remember it. 1998, 1999 season. So yeah, I just want this out the way. I think it's probably playing on everyone's minds at the moment. So yeah, the semi-final getting to the final to me is like just overriding everything
Maddison?
at the minute.
I thought there's still a discussion about him coming.
Yeah, there's still a discussion. I think there's no concrete source, so it's just that blooming Alfonso bloke on Twitter. He just randomly spouts, what's he called, Alfonso Leon Caicedo or something. He just puts random stuff on to get a little bit of a bite every now and again.
Yeah.
Where he knows people will bite. So he always does the Maddison thing because he knows Newcastle fans want Maddison. But I don't know if that's going to get done this window. If not, I'm assuming it'll probably be one of the first deals done through the door in the summer. But I just don't know, because he's got injury problems as well, which is something that we really don't need at the moment. So I'm just not sure what gets done about that at all. But if we're willing to pay 45 million for Anthony Gordon, then I'm kind of like 60 million for James Maddison's nothing. So yeah, I'd be happy to pay 60 for James Maddison, but we'll see. But because Anthony Gordon kind of does what James Maddison does, so I don't even know if that's...
Anthony Gordon is going to be a replacement for Almiron, don't you think, on that right side, instead of Jacob Murphy coming on?
Well, he's like an attack midfielder winger. He does both, so he could play anywhere really at this point. And we have kind of switched formations just slightly lately in terms of when we're on the pitch, because Joelinton's obviously been playing on the wing. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen really, because as I said, it wasn't the sign I was expecting at all. I really wasn't, but Eddie Howe will be able to do, has worked miracles, let's be honest, with some of our players. So I think Gordon will be fine. But yeah, it's yet to be seen where he'll fit in. But we kind of had that with Isak as well, because we didn't know whether it was him or Wilson, or whether they played together or anything like that. And he has done both. So yeah, I'll wait and see what's going to happen with that. I don't know.
Yeah, guys, are you seeing Newcastle as a real contender next year? I know you both are worried about your clubs this year, but I just want to get like the opinions of Arsenal, City, because I'm seeing the City vibes again from 2008 in this Newcastle, but even better in terms of like the decision making. They're not going for the flashy player. They're just doing the business really calm, composed, thinking about it before going into any business or any bid or something. Are you guys like worried about it at all?
Long term, 100%, yeah, because Newcastle, in my opinion, Newcastle will be a member of the Big Six. It's not going to expand to a Big Seven. I think someone like Spurs is falling out, and I think that Newcastle it's inevitable with that financial backing and with the size of the club and with competent ownership and like a leadership. They will just become one of the big boys. But I don't think that's going to be for a few years. I think next season's probably too soon. They are doing very good this season. I think I predicted them to finish 7th this season. I thought I was being overly ambitious with that placement. But I'm not sure they'll finish top 4 this season. Maybe just because of the failure to score goals recently, maybe the lack of depth relative to other teams. But I totally agree with what you say, Mo, about the fact that when City got taken over in 2008, there were so many weird signings. Robinho, for example, for British transfer record. It seemed like that was more like a fun vibes signing, sort of like, oh, we're here, we've got loads of money to actually spend. But Newcastle signing Nick Pope from a relegated Burnley, that's a brilliant signing. The signing a League winner in Botman. They're bringing a really exciting striker in Isaac, or Isaac, however it's pronounced. And they're not real, and which is even more impressive because Newcastle last season were fighting relegation. When City were taken over, they were a Europa League club. That was sort of like the position they were at. They were in the Europa League that season. So Newcastle have had a harder starting point than take over City, but so far they're actually doing much better. But from what I gather from the interviews with Amanda Staveley when Newcastle was first purchased, she was being very cautious and going, no, this is going to be slowly. We're going to invest very not little, but we're not going to go mental, just like splashing the cash. It's going to be very progressive. and very limited at first. And it's a very sensible strategy, I think, from Newcastle. So I think in like 2 or 3 years, I think they will be a nailed on, top 4 club, and they'll be like basically a big 6 member. And I think in like maybe like, 4, 5, 6 years, that's when they will be properly winning league titles like on a more consistent basis.
So is I know you're like your club is so different. It's like the project, the kids, Saka 21, Martinelli 22. I know it's completely different world for you with the players, the Salibas. But how are you seeing a project like Newcastle with like the amount of money they have, the endless money, and
I mean, you'd be stupid not to be scared. Like, it's a reality. You've got to think they're the richest owners in world football, let alone the Premier League. Like any league in the world, they would go and they can buy leagues. That's how rich they are. Let's put it that way. If they wanted to, they can buy the entire Premier League clubs on valuation alone. So that's the level of money we're talking. So, and I'm not saying they're going to become a money club or anything like that. It's not the worst thing, by the way. I know a lot of people put that stigma around Man City being an oil club, money, whatever. It's not. It's hard actually to be a club like that because the amount of financial risk you're taking, making sure your signings are right when you're spending 50, 60 million pounds. But the one thing I want to say, right, is Newcastle as a club are already big. But when you look at where their stadium is, it's right next to their main university. So when you look at international students who come over, they're going to go and watch Newcastle play. And when they see like the vibe that's going on right now, the good feel factor, I mean, I don't know how Newcastle or like local Geordie is going to feel about it, but you've got to think. Then actually, I'll tell people. I mean, I might be wrong. Kendall knows better, but I believe it's about a 5, maybe 10-minute walk away from certain university campuses. So when you think about international students who are coming over and they want to embrace themselves in the local culture, one of the things is going to be football. That's their main thing. Like Geordies love their football, and especially Newcastle, that's like a religion to them. So if they embroil themselves and they get that feeling and go, actually, do you know what? This feels good. There's your international fan base. They're going to slowly come in. Of course, it takes time to build and become a global fan. And look at the money they've got. Look at how much they're already valued at, how much they're allowed to spend. That's only going to expedite once they start getting these global fans, shirt sales. Now, obviously, right now, they're building a core of players. They're going to get a South American following with the likes of Guimaraes coming in. When you look at Joe Linton and what he's now doing as well, they're going to start getting the garners of like international fan bases. So the money is going to be there available. We know that, but we also see a smart strategy in the way they're doing it. They're not just coming in and flexing their muscles and going, look at how much money we've got. We're just going to sign everyone. They're being smart, and you've got to credit that. I think Isaac was a steal. That's a top 6 Premier League player. When you look at someone like Anthony Gordon now, he's a bit unproven. We don't really know. It's a bit of a gamble at this stage. Now, we can look at his qualities and go, no, he's got everything needed to be a top player. But their midfield, you can say, rivals any top 6 midfield. When you look at, their attack is the only thing that we question. But the only reason we're questioning it is because they've massively overperformed. That a few games of them not scoring, we're now concerned. It's like, that's not the way it works. You've got to look at their overall season and go, actually, they've been good. They've had a bit of a bad patch, which a top 4 team normally does have. You're going to have a few draws. Like we've seen, like the likes of Spurs and, other teams have like 10 draws, 8 draws, and still make top 4. So it's fine. Like they can have these games where they're not quite up to it, as long as the other teams are performing to the way they're now performing. But if those teams step up, then obviously Newcastle also need to start stepping up and rivaling. The next thing for Newcastle is to rival your opponent, like ourselves, City, Spurs, if they're still in the conversation, Chelsea, for certain signings. You have to get into the market that we're buying in. Because at the moment, I think they're in a market below us, but that's understandable. They're at the beginning of the project. The pressure shouldn't be to start rivaling us for the likes of Mudryk, Felix, et cetera, et cetera. At the minute, just do what you're doing. You're doing it under the radar to a degree. I still think there's a lot of clubs underestimating Newcastle, not from, sort of club perspectives, but from a fan perspective. And the respect has to be there. And I think for you guys to even finish in the top 4 this season, that's a statement. I'm not going to lie. Like, I know this is going to sound mad, but for you guys, I would sacrifice it all just to get top 4. Imagine in your sort of first full season of ownership, you can prove to players that your project's that good that you went from relegation to Champions League. Like you can convince the world to join you if you can do that. The hard thing, but like, sorry to bring it to Arsenal, but the hard thing that Arteta was having was trying to convince players in his first 2 seasons to come to Arsenal, because an 8th and an 8th doesn't really look appealing. But now think about it. Now it's going to be 8th, 8th, 5th, and then potentially winning the league. Players are going to look at that and go, wait a minute, how the hell did they make this jump? How is that even fathomable in a Premier League to make a jump like that? And that's what Newcastle have done. They've gone from relegation battle to competing with the top boys in a season. That doesn't take convincing. That's a project here to stay. And if I come in, I can elevate that project. And you've got to understand, Isaac was injured. That's their star striker, unless they want to say Wilson. But that's their main striker that's still injured. And by the way, all they need to do is Jack Grealish get on the phone and bully, Almiron a bit more, and man will be back in it. So it's all good.
Yeah, listen, I see. Can you imagine, Kendall? And I want to say that. Can you imagine that in the States here, I see children and kids wearing Man City jerseys? If you told me this 10 years ago, I would never believe you. I would not believe you. Man City now, I think they came to Houston here, and the stadium was sold out. People just want to see Man City play. And I see Newcastle. Do you see Newcastle with the global market now? How soon can we see Newcastle on the global stage going to Asia, going to the United States, and having a global fan base? Because that's what brings even more popularity for the club and power. I think this brings power, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we've been doing we used to do our pre-season in York, which is an hour away from Newcastle. Now we're doing it in Riyadh. It's great. We used to do it at school in York, so Riyadh, I'm like, great. This is fantastic. But yeah, obviously we're getting a little bit of a fan base now in Saudi Arabia, because we're the first club that is being linked with that country. So we're getting a fan base there now. There's a lot more people just taking notice of us, and I think there was a lot in the 90s. If people of a certain age, so I'm 27, and people my age and above, I've met a lot of people who live in London who support Newcastle who are 35. And I always used to be like, why? But then I forget, we were actually really good in the 90s. We were second in the league, championship. So it was actually a Champions League, not championship. That's my PTSD talking there. So we were actually a good side. And I don't remember any of that because, as I say, mid-90s I was born. So I don't remember how good we actually were. So this for me is immense. And I agree with everything that everyone said. I think we're building cleverly and not making stupid signings and not just throwing money at things because we can. Because also we actually can't. There is a lot of restrictions, and for some reason that seems to be the club's direction whenever they're asked about money. They're always we need to stick to financial fair play rules, and I think they might need to have a chat with some other clubs going on, cough cough Todd Bowley and that. But yeah, I'm so happy with everything at the moment, and it's annoying to everyone because I'm so positive. What is there to be negative about? Really nothing to be negative about. We were 19th this time last year, 19th in the league, and we're now 3rd. So it's just insane.
Are you overachieving though? Are you overachieving?
Yeah, I think we're probably over. I don't think we're overachieving in terms of because league form and stuff is obviously the telltale, and
exactly.
I think we deserve where we are right now.
Yes.
However, I do think we're prematurely achieving, if that makes sense. So
okay.
I think we're a little bit far ahead than everyone expected, than we expected.
That's the best expression I've heard about Newcastle, because everybody's saying they're overachieving, and I'm like, okay, no, they finished last year as the 3rd best team in the country over the 6 months. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, we're not overachieving. We're just pre-achieving, if that makes sense. But the only thing I would say necessarily is that if we miss out on Champions League, I don't find that annoying and I don't find that upsetting, as long as we win the Carabao Cup. Because I think if we get the Carabao Cup out of the way, and the argument can't be used like it gets used against Tottenham. You've got no trophies, or you've not won anything recently, or you've not won any silverware, because then no one can say that to us. Because we have, even though Carabao Cup, I don't care what people think about it like that. If we get into a final, if I'm at the game on Tuesday, right? If we genuinely win that game, or if it stays as it is, we're still going through. I will cry my eyes out like I've never cried before because I've never seen my club in a final at all. I've never seen us do anything like that. So for me, like that would be massive. So yeah, I would like top 4 and the Carabao Cup. That would be amazing. And that would be insane, like genuinely insane. As I say, we were battling relegation this time last year. We had like I think 2 wins at this time last year. But yeah, if we do that, then we can do both. I think we can do both, but I don't mind if it's one or the other, really. I'm not going to be upset about that. If it's none and we're like end up 8th, so I'm going to be like, oh, that's a bit poor actually. But I did say if we finish 10th this season, I would still be happy. But my expectations are kind of changing as we go through the season because we're midway now and we've been in the top 4 since like 5 games in. So I'm just a bit like, oh, we need to be up at least top 6 now. We need to finish at least top 6. I think it'll be a bit like disappointing if we don't now. But yeah, I'm happy. I can't. I'm sorry. I literally don't have a negative. I know that annoys everyone, but I don't have a negative about my club at the moment.
But you make a really good point though in terms of winning that trophy because we've seen even United right now are going through that sort of pressure of winning something. It's been 5-6 seasons. That's not a dig at them. I'm just saying what's happening. And the longer you go out, we've seen this. Like it's happened to all our clubs at some point where you've got a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and it's like, when are you going to win this trophy now? And it's like that. You don't want it to be a pressure thing. You want to get it over done. You're like, all right, we won a Carabao Cup, cool. We've got silverware. It doesn't stop there. I'm not saying that's it done. Like you can go with another 6 seasons for that one, but it kind of just alleviates the pressure to build the way you want. And it just means, you know what, you're good enough to do it. Look at our first season, we won silverware. So why can't you do it in 3 seasons? And it's that sort of factor, that mentality, that voodoo that it's always there. And it's also a point to the players who are coming in that we can do this, we can go all the way, because players are going to say like, what have you got to show us that we should come and join? Arteta, that FA Cup is the reason our project was so good, because 6 months in, wins an FA Cup. He can say that to likes of Thomas Partey, whoever else comes in, Odegaard. Look, we won the FA Cup. Yes, we might not be doing so well now, as in we're going for top 4, we're just trying to build our cycle. But we've shown, even in our worst period, we won an FA Cup. So I agree. I think you kind of do need to get something. I'm not saying it's a need, but it's good to.
I want to get a little bit. Listen, we've been going for like 50 something minutes, and I want to get a little bit of transfer things out from all these clubs. I'm gonna start with, to be honest, with Nobbins here. Your club, it's not looking like they're doing any business this winter at all, Nobbins. Is that correct? And also, would you want to see your club do something, especially in the midfield, though, with players? And Calvin Phillips is not. Is he the right one in the club? Do you want to get maybe call Lavia, buyback clause, and all this stuff? And tell me, how is it looking at the City fan base, looking at the transfer and looking at the Caicedos, the Onanas, and all the other teams are doing business while your club are just sitting on the sideline?
So I've honestly not really even contemplated City going into the market because as far as I'm concerned, we don't need to. I don't know what position you could even really improve apart from like reserve left back, but Ake's been brilliant. I think for me, it's not an issue of City need to go out and panic buy and splash the cash just because Arsenal are also doing the same. I think it's more an issue of you've got the players, you've got the tools to win the league. Just get the likes of Cancelo and Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne back to winning ways. As I say, if we take City's strongest 11, realistically, I don't even know if City fans are wanting City to spend. But if these people do exist, I don't know what positions they really want to improve, because I don't think you can improve the starting 11 unless you spend like an outrageous amount of money. But yeah, so in terms of the names, there isn't really a weakness there. I think the weakness is just the players aren't really playing as they should be in some positions. In terms of Calvin Phillips, I've got a bit of sympathy for him because he did come to the club injured. He dislocated his shoulder, I think he dislocated his shoulder, and then he needed surgery on it, and and then he was out until the World Cup. He played like a few minutes at the World Cup, and I think he's like started one game, and that was in the Southampton game, and that was in one of City's worst ever performances. So that's not just a Phillips fault. That's everyone on the pitch. But But again, Phillips wasn't brought in to be a starter. He was brought in to be Rodri's understudy. So unless anyone else can think of like a position City need, I'm genuinely struggling. The only one I can think of is, a proper backup left back. But Ake's been doing a very good job there. So I don't really see a need for City to spend.
I still think you need the wingers because I think Jack Grealish is not a winger, to be honest. You need a winger to contribute more goals and output. I know that it's just a stats numbers, but I think Jack Grealish is great as a midfielder, not the greatest winger in the world, not the likes of Mahrez, Sane, Sterling. These guys are scorers. I don't think Jack Grealish. You will need a winger. And I think this might be, if you get a winger that will score 15 goals or 10 plus goals from now until the end of the season, I think you'll go on a run. But I think Pep Guardiola is stubborn, and he's not. He's going to keep doing that.
But Grealish has been one of our best players.
Exactly, but the output. He can be the best player in the midfield, but your wingers always contributed to the goals. And he hasn't.
I hear your point, Mo, but you know what it is, right? This is when I think stats get overblown and the importance of output gets overblown, because that's what they want Haaland to do. If Jack Grealish isn't scoring, that's fine. As long as Jack Grealish is contributing to Haaland scoring, that kind of solves their problem. A lot of the problems that we're seeing with Man City aren't externally fixed; they're internally fixed, which is, getting players back on form, number one. But if you're talking about this goal-scoring winger, they've got one. Julian Alvarez. Don't play him as a striker this season. Play him as on the wing if you need him to be a goal threat, if you want a different dimension to your wingers. So I don't think they need to. I think the problem is when people are looking at Arsenal being top of the league, we have to sign players. It's not a choice. It's not a matter of, we can get away with not signing anyone. We have to, because we don't have the depth that City do. City have built this over the years, so it looks like, they're not doing anything to rectify their problems, but their problems can't be rectified in the market. Like, who are they, like Nobin said, who are they actually going to bring in that's going to, who's going to come in and do what Cancelo,
the likes of Trossard?
But we don't need a Trossard. This is very odd to me. Like,
can I add? Okay, let me just say something, Nobin. Just one thing. People were getting on Mahrez in the beginning of the season because he wasn't scoring, but he was still playing. He was still carrying the ball, dribbling, trying to cross, doing everything that a winger would do, but without scoring or assisting. But everybody was saying Mahrez is having a bad season. But now Mahrez is scoring. Everybody's saying Mahrez now is having a good season. But Jack Grealish has been having a good season, but doing the same thing, but not scoring. So why it's different for Mahrez than Jack on the right side, different than Jack Grealish on the left?
Because what Mahrez gives to the City side isn't the same as what Jack Grealish gives to the City side. Jack Grealish has never been good at scoring goals or assisting goals. Look at his best ever season, which was his last season for Aston Villa, a season where he would have got into the team of the season, but for injury right at the end. I don't know how many goals he got that season exactly, but it wasn't a lot because he's not a goal scorer. He's not a goal creator directly. He's very good in respect of shot creating actions and goal creating actions, but not necessarily through direct scoring of goals or direct assists. What he provides to City is he's our best ball carrier. And basically, he's very good at receiving the ball and running with it and moving City up the field. He's literally the best in the team at that. Mahrez doesn't do that. So Mahrez does need to have more direct goals to his game because he doesn't offer what Grealish offers. So it's a bit of a false equivalency to say that, well, Mahrez wasn't scoring, now he is, but Grealish has never been scoring. So, he's surely he's not been playing well. The difference is Mahrez does need to add the direct goals because that is what he contributes to City's team. He was our top goal scorer last season. So again, I don't agree with the whole City need a goal scoring winger. Mahrez exists and he was our best goal scorer last season. Alvarez can also play on the wing. Foden is experiencing a dip in form right now, but he's another player who isn't a winger, but he can play on the wing and score goals. So Grealish doesn't have to score goals to play well for City. He offers so much more that that will not show up on a highlights reel. Like if you only watch the highlights of a match, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll be like, well, what's Grealish actually doing? He's just sort of like hanging around, looking pretty with his lovely calves. But if you watch a match, you'll see exactly what he offers this City side, and it's very crucial to how we play.
Do you know what it is to add to that as well? I think the reason why this is being overblown is you got to look at their midfield last season or the season before. Their midfield was one of the highest scoring midfields in the Premier League. But I mean, nobody's can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've not seen that this season. That's why I think the amplification of wingers needing to score goals or their goals have dried up or they need more goal threats is directly contributing to the fact that Kevin De Bruyne is maybe not getting the goal numbers as consistently as he did last season. Maybe, Gundogan definitely hasn't scored as much as he did last season. Bernardo Silva hasn't looked as good. So that's why I say that I don't know whether you can go into the market and rectify that situation directly. I do think when I talk about Haaland, I don't mean I've never said Haaland's made them worse per se, that he's made them different. And I'm not going to say they're going through a transition, but they kind of are learning how to play with someone like Haaland because they're used to someone coming in midfield and then bombing forward and being past the striker. Whereas with now, the striker is actually where they used to play. So I just think it's one of those weird seasons where you're going to see a lot of drop-offs and inconsistencies just due to that. But like Norman said, I think Jack Grealish, in the role he's doing and Mahrez is doing, that's what they are. One is a goal scorer and one is someone who's going to make sure everything happens for that reason.
What about your club then, Souls? You are gonna get a midfielder. Caicedo has been priced at £90 million, which is absurd, to be honest. From Brighton, it's absurd when the guy wants to go. You got a defender for. I know that you got a defender, but
QEO.
Yeah, and then you got Trossard, which is absolutely the brilliant signing of this window because I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I think they're linked with Onana from Everton. That was yesterday. I'm not sure how serious is that. So what does your club need? And do you think that you should just spend your summer budget on Caicedo now? Try to convince him to go for like 70 or something, because that might guarantee you winning the league, especially with Partey being injured.
It's difficult, when people talk about whether someone's worth something or not. I mean, these transfer markets have been the market's destroyed. Let's just put it that way. It's absolutely insane. Like Anthony Gordon going for 45 million. I'm not saying it's bad business, but he's not a 45 million pound valuation player. Like if we look at how many times he's played, even Mudryk going for 100 million, Anthony going for 100 million. Even if you look at Jack Grealish going for 100 million, when you look at Maguire going for 80 million, can you see the pattern? Maybe Jack Grealish is proving himself this season, but a lot of those players have yet to prove themselves at all. Jack Grealish made sense because of what he did with Villa. He was the star man. You can understand why that valuation might have been put on his head. But when you start seeing players who have had 30 professional games to prove £100 million price tag, because there's two players this window alone who can potentially do that, you've got to think this market's stupid. And you've got to pay stupid prices to get these kinds of quality players in. Now, I don't think Caicedo's worth the money, but do I care if we pay it? Not really. If it means, at the end of the season we win the league, I'm not going to go, Ramsdale cost us this much, this player cost us this much. I'm not going to care. I'm going about, we're champions of fucking England. I don't care if we spend 100 million. I don't care if we spend £1 billion on that player. If we're the champions of England, we've objectified our season. We have overperformed to what everyone gave us the standards of being a top 4 team. We went and beat the City team. Now, granted, they're underperforming to a degree, but this juggernaut of a City team that you can say for the last 5 seasons, barring maybe Europe, they have been the best team in Europe. Yet obviously they need to win that Champions League to solidify that statement. But on form, when you're looking at the league, they have been the best team. So if we go and spend, if someone says to me, look, you've got to spend £80 million, let's forget it's Caicedo, forget it's whoever, but that £80 million on one player is going to guarantee you the league. I think all 3 or all 4 of us would be like, yeah, go on then, pay it, because you want that league title at all costs, especially when it's been 2 decades since we've seen it. Absolutely. I say go for it, just risk it. And the thing is, the statements are coming out that it's not going to affect our summer. So who cares? Go for it. Blow it all out. I don't care, because we're still going to sign who we want to sign in the summer.
We talked about Newcastle and the transfer market for Newcastle and what Anthony Gordon see. Where do you see Anthony Gordon play in your team? Is it the right, the left? Is it the midfield? I'm trying to see how is this kid going to break into the lineup?
This is it. I don't know at the moment. I honestly don't know the plans, but again, when we signed Isak, I didn't really not understand it. I understood at the time, but I didn't know where he was going to fit into the team. Because I'd obviously watched him a lot at Sociedad as well, and so I knew kind of where he played, and we didn't play with the front two, so it really worried me at the time because I was like, I don't know where or how he's going to fit in, but he's managed to. He's played out wide. He's played kind of a little bit behind Callum Wilson. He's played as a 9. So I think Gordon will probably be used in a variety of ways depending on how we now go ahead with the season. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see where Eddie thinks he's going to put him or believes that he's going to be best at. So I honestly can't even. I wouldn't even give you a straight answer because I honestly don't know where he's going to play at the moment.
Well, but I still think if you get Maddison, you're guaranteed top 4. Maddison and Gordon guarantees you top 4. No question.
If we get Maddison this window, I'll say right top 4.
Top
Fine.
4. Finally, you're going to say it, right?
But finally I'll say it if we get Maddison. But because he's everything we need. We absolutely are desperate for a Maddison. And this is why the whole Gordon thing I just didn't really get, because in my opinion, waiting this late into the window, I just don't believe we're going to do any more business or any more serious business. We kind of had it wrapped up a little bit more last year, but and obviously last year January window was exceptional. But I think at the moment we're working in stages, which I'm quite happy about. So last year we signed players to stay up, which we did. Fine, great. This year we're signing like younger players, like obviously Botman, Anthony Gordon, all like under 23 years old, who are then going to take us to the next level and gradually phase out obviously older players. So we are working in stages at the moment, kind of just chunking it up and going from there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're going to do. If Gordon gets announced tomorrow, I just can't see us doing any more business in the next 2 days, or any more serious business anyway. We need to get rid of some squad places, and I'm telling you now.
About that, I wanted to ask you: are you happy about the links with Alan Saint-Maximin to be leaving the club? Are you happy about that?
I don't want Maxi to leave at all. I don't. I can't physically imagine him leaving. I can't. He's just something we don't have with anyone else in our team. He's a luxury player, not in terms of luxury, like he's the best ever, but he's a luxury player that we don't have anyone else who does what he does. And when we played the other night, against Crystal Palace, and everyone saw when him and Isak came on, we were a better team by a country mile because of the way we've been playing at the moment. So we need that. We need that creativity. We need that burst of energy. We need that unpredictability that we don't have with anyone else. So yeah, I'm not happy about him leaving. If he wants to leave and we're going to get a good fee, okay, I accept it. I don't like it, but I accept it. But I just don't know. I can't see him leaving. And if he does leave, I think it'll be the summer, and we'll probably get a decent fee from him. I think. I just hope it's not a Premier League team.
I think he's linked to AC Milan now on loan.
I just don't want to be a Premier League team.
Yeah, I think he's linked to AC Milan on loan. But anyway.
Milan. Yeah, he was.
We've been going for an hour, 10 minutes, and it has been absolutely great chatting with you guys. Absolutely brilliant to having you on. Hopefully, this will be our show Saturday when the Premier League comes back. We'll review the games and everything that happened on Saturday. But we didn't chat enough about the games today because I think Man United should have beaten Reading. They did. Preston lost to Spurs. They did. It's about the game tomorrow, Liverpool and Brighton. And Man City should have beaten Arsenal, and they did at home. That's what I expected. Thank you, everybody. And also, I just wanted to make sure that everybody's socials are in their box. Make sure to check these guys' socials and find them. Nobbins, let the people know where to find you, my friend.
On YouTube, it's L Nobbins FC. On every other social media provider, it's just L Nobbins.
Souls, always great chatting with you, my friend. Tell the people where to find you. Plug in if you have something coming on.
Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. Obviously, I think this is going to be a weekly show, like you said, so you can find me on here. I've kind of just blanked this out, so if I'm ever needed, I can always come on. So
you're always here, my friend.
Never a file first. Subscribe and get them there. And you can find me on Gunnar Souls on all platforms. And that's where you'll find if I'm doing any features at the moment, not making my own content, but I'm on plenty of platforms not to need to do that.
Kindle, thank you so much. You'll find Kindle's socials all in the description and also in her box if you wanna check her out. Kindle, I know you got the big show that happens that Saturday or on Sky, so let the people know where to watch you, where to find you, please.
Yeah, you'll find me probably anywhere I do. do all sorts of stuff. Anyway, you want to find me, I'm sure you will. I'm obviously on here. This is the only channel that I am affiliated with now. So yeah, we never a foul. As and when, obviously, you'll find me on my socials, just Kendall Rowan. You'll find me on there. I do have my own YouTube channel. I just don't tend to use it. So I probably should start using that. Might be a good idea, considering I'm a content creator. Might be a good idea. But yeah, you'll find me somewhere if you want to. Obviously, the Sky advert for the Premier League is floating around with my face on it. And yeah, and the overlap. Obviously a new episode will be coming shortly. It's not been filmed yet, but it is normally early in the season, so probably next month. So look out for that. But yeah, thank you as always for having me.
And we appreciate you all. Make sure before you leave to hit that like button for us, please. And also tomorrow afternoon at midday, it is the Rival Show, one of our best shows, to be honest. The shows that you're going to see a lot of banter in it, and you're just going to love it. So thank you, everybody that are tuned in with us. We really appreciate you, and hopefully, guys, we'll see you soon. And from all of us here at Never Foul, we appreciate you, we love you, and thank you so much for watching us.